Hey, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Kay, and I'm here today to bring you Beyond the Gates, Season 2, Episode 131. Okay, so y'all, I think this episode is starting to build like new extensions of the story, right? We have Haley meeting with Randy again to discuss how her plan with Bill is taking much longer than she thought. They're meeting at the place in which I don't know the name, but that's where they go to get coffee and smoothies. She's telling Randy that, she's ready to get this plan over with. This is, post Bill stint in the hospital. As we know, she doesn't know this, but Bill has already passed out again because she gave him that green juice. And her and Randy, well, basically she's just venting to Randy because she's ready for this to be over and done with. She says she wants to go to St. Bart's and, live her life and boop, 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 boop. And then on the other hand, while she's there, she gets up and Randy also talks to Mona. And so Mona is just, she's just being a friend to Randy. But Randy, was telling her that he was sorry that he hasn't shown up at church for the last couple Sundays. And so Mona wasn't really pressed about the issue, but, she was still willing to hear Randy out. And so Randy basically was telling her that, it's not like that, but, he thought that, she would notice that he was missing. And so with that, she basically was like, well, Randy, are you feeling guilty about something? She was just like, everybody needs to be redeemed. Everybody needs to be saved or whatever. And so Randy, basically, you could tell that Randy actually respects Mona. And Mona is probably the first person in a while that has shown like interest in Randy's well-being, not just like what he can offer them or what he can do for them. She just tried to make sure he was good. And I think he really respects that. And Mona already put the boundary down. She was just like, this is not what you think, Randy. At first, I think it was made to seem like something might have been going on between Mona and Randy. But Mona let there be known this episode, there's absolutely nothing going on between her and Randy. Not at all. Not at all. And so Haley comes back over to the table and tells Randy, basically, she calls Mona out of her name and says you need to leave her alone and you may need to make her disappear like Lynette. Excuse me, Haley? Excuse me? Are you serious? Randy was like, don't you ever call her that out your, don't you ever call her that, disrespect her ever again in your life. Like, he put his foot down. Everybody else is a go. You will not speak bad on Miss Mona's name. And Haley, you will not speak bad on Miss Mona's name. Miss Mona didn't do nothing to you for you to be, calling her out her name and being rude and disrespectful to her. We not going for it. And neither is Randy. And so Randy basically was like, well, this is XYZ, this is XYZ or whatever like that. And so he basically just didn't have anything else to say on the subject. Meanwhile, there was a brief stint where Danny spoke with both Bill and Anita. Bill stopped in at the country club and saw Danny sitting there. And Danny basically, was staring off into space. And Danny is really bothered about Naomi. She really think that her going through with the double mastectomy or considering a double mastectomy is very invasive. And it's just, people are blown by it, but it's a big deal because it's a major surgery. And so Bill, had a talk with Danny. And he was just basically like, Naomi told me everything, she wanted to tell me herself. I think she's handling it the best way she knows how to handle it. And I have full faith in her. And we got her. We won't let anything happen to her. And that reassures Danny. Vernon pops up. And then Danny leaves. And, of course, that's when she goes to have a talk with Anita. And then Vernon stays and has a talk with Bill. And so then Danny goes to Anita and basically asks Anita, how did the conversation... Anita was trying to, talk to her daughter, Formalities. Danny just skipped right through. How did Naomi go? What did she say? And then Anita was like, straight to the punch, huh? Like always. And so basically, Anita reiterates that she did not, try to talk Naomi out of her decision, and that she absolutely heard Naomi out, and even told Danny if she was Naomi's age and she knew about the BRCA mutation earlier, she probably would have considered doing the same thing. And so I guess that really gave Danny, the eye-opener that she wasn't expecting. But nonetheless, she was just like, I heard her out. She was like, Naomi watched me, and that made her, be proactive, and I can't be against that. And so, it just wasn't what Danny wanted to hear nonetheless. But then Laura ended up showing up, and so Danny ended up leaving. As we know, back to Bill. Bill was having a conversation with Vernon, but Vernon was just basically trying to give Bill a reality check on what's going on and to listen to his body and take his health serious. We all know from the past that Bill is stubborn, one, and two, he doesn't like hospitals, so he's trying to do whatever he can within his power to refrain from going back to the hospital. But little does he know, he's been tripping and stumbling over things, and he knows something is wrong, and he's being in denial about it. He tripped on the way in, and everybody saw him when he was going to sit with Danny, and then on his way out, when he was on his way out the club, he tripped, and that's when Jacob saw him, and Jacob was concerned. And then he ended up trying to bite his lip at Jacob, talking about some, you don't need to be worried about me, you need to be worried about your wife. Like, don't deflect Bill, and don't try to think you can spill his tea or put pie on his face because Naomi decided to hide the information from everybody. That didn't have nothing to do with Jacob, and you don't know what in the world's going on in their marriage, so you don't need to be talking too much and disrespecting him, because you know he gonna go back and tell Naomi what you said, and then Naomi gonna come and light a fire under you. So not too much, Bill, not too much, especially while you in here tripping, stumbling, and falling. And right now you need a button, because at any given moment, because of the stuff Haley been giving you, you can fall out. But anyway, nonetheless, Vernon had told Bill that it's not a wake-up call. Sirens are going off, and you need to be checking about yourself, because this is serious. And he was like, I care about my granddaughters, and I don't want the decisions that you make to have a negative impact on everybody else. I was like, Vernon, please tell him. Get him together, Vernon. Get him together, because he's doing too much. He's doing way too much. He's making bad decisions all across the board. Then on the flip side, after Danny leaves Anita's house, Laura walks in, and of course, Laura is the assistant. She's helping Anita with creating the cancer portion, or the cancer branch of her foundation, because she wants to help bring awareness, everything, which is piggybacking off of that interview she did in the beginning with Gayle King. And so, of course, everybody loves Laura. Laura is basically, an extension of the family. And so they do that. And then Anita ends up giving Vernon then is back at the house by now, because we know he left Bill. Anita gives Laura a gift to show her appreciation and to, thank her, because, had Laura not been on top of her about her doctor's appointments and her preventative screenings, they wouldn't have been able to catch her cancer in the stage that they did. And so they were able to, fight against it. And can I stop stuttering? Jesus. They were able to fight against it, and they were able to take preventative measures and precautions and get treatments as soon as possible. That's what I'm trying to say. Also, there was a brief stint during this episode where we saw Jacob have a brief conversation with Smitty, because Smitty went down to the station looking to see if he could talk to Leah before Leah was transferred to another facility. Smitty is trying to wrap his mind around how and what part Leah played in the plasma ring, and he tells Jacob everything that Haley told him in regards to Leah and Lynette. So I'm just like, again, is this the part where we gonna start figuring out what happened to Lynette and what is? I think this is going to unravel what happened to Lynette, because we've been wondering what happened to Lynette for a while because she just up and disappeared. And then 2, it also was insinuated again this episode that Randy did something to Lynette. We just don't know what he did. So Lynette could be perished, or she could still be alive. We don't know. She just disappeared right now. I'm assuming that she's no longer living, but we don't know yet until we get, substantial proof. And this will also lead to I think this is the start of the downfall of Haley, because Haley is starting to get messy and people are starting to listen to her lies and they starting to add up. So there was a brief, like I said, there was a brief stint where Smitty had a conversation with Jacob about talking to Leah and telling her. And so Jacob was basically saying, all this stuff that is happening, it still doesn't prove, what exactly is going on with, Lynette, or what's going on with Leah. And so Jacob, Smitty was like, okay, and he, is wrapping his mind about it. But he does end up running into Naomi at Orphe Jean's. So while Naomi was at Orphe Jean's, she also ran into Andre, and then her and Andre had a brief talk while she was waiting on her order and Andre was waiting on his to-go order. And then they were able to talk about, Andre knowing about Naomi's diagnosis, him trying to be there for her mom, and how he's trying to best support her. But then he tells her also that Danny is stubborn. He does tell Naomi that Danny has, caught up with some of her screenings, or she has some of her screenings planned. And Naomi also tells Andre that she doesn't feel like Danny is doing enough to prevent or take precautionary measures toward this mutation. And so Andre just tells Naomi that he's going to continue to talk to Danny, and that, he's going to bring it up the best he can, but he knows that, talking to Danny about it is a sensitive subject, because if Danny don't want to talk about something, she ain't going to talk about it. And it kind of put a little tension in between them, because, Danny tries to deal with the positive and not the negative. Once Andre leaves, though, that's when Smitty shows up. Smitty shows up. Well, June is there, and of course, June is hovering. Naomi tells June her news, and of course, because, Naomi was there for June when June was in her dark times. June tried to be there, to just provide words of comfort to Naomi. And then, while Naomi is still sitting there, Naomi has a talk with Smitty, and basically, they start putting their heads together. Well, this is what I was told, this is what I was told, and this is what I heard. And Smitty just basically tells Naomi that he thinks it's strange that, the whole situation with Leah and trying to find out her role in the plasma ring, Haley told her, well, this is XYZ about Lynette. And so then, Naomi was trying to say that, well, what Haley said about Lynette was that Lynette was a bad influence in her life, and that, Lynette, she didn't want to be around Lynette, or she felt bad that she was around Lynette because Lynette was trying to take advantage of her in XYZ. But as we know, Lynette posed the biggest threat, because Lynette was threatening to expose Haley because she knew her secrets and her tea about Bill. And so June basically came around and overheard what they were saying. And June was saying that the person who was, accused for attacking and robbing Haley was a man in a park because they found his wallet. But June said she knows that man, and she had been homeless with that man for a long time, and she knows that that man was a gentle giant, and he wouldn't hurt a fly. And so then, of course, as we know, unbeknownst to them, we know that, Joey gave that man money and train tickets to leave DC, because Joey didn't want that man to be caught up and booked for something that he didn't do. But Joey also knows that, Haley had something to do with it, and Lynette, because he don't trust Randy. So he's keeping them all at an arm's distance. Also, what comes up again was Tomas and Haley thing, and how Haley basically, tried to blame Tomas, or Lynette tried to blame Tomas for coming on to her, and then Haley got mad about it, and then she tried to get Tomas fired, but then apologized because she said to cover her tracks because she said Lynette was trying to take advantage of her to make her own self look good because she wanted to throw Lynette under the bus. And so basically now she's trying to pin this whole thing with the plasma ring, and maybe, you know, Leah had something to do with Lynette's disappearance instead of Randy, to try to get the police off Randy's tracks. But I think all this is going to come tumbling down. And I think that Randy is going to be the one to throw Haley under the bus, and he going to be the one to get off, and Haley going to be the one to go to jail if they don't both go to jail. Because Randy is getting good in with Mona, even though, you know, Mona being a good character of judgment, you know, with the whole thing with Leslie. That's probably why she also ain't trying to get close to Randy, because she's trying to see the good in Randy, but then at the same time, Randy might be crooked like Leslie was, and she don't want to be bitten again. That's another thing that's probably up with that. But nonetheless, Mona might be the one to vouch for Randy if push comes to shove, because she'll say Randy was here, or I talk to him all the time, or that's not his personality, or XYZ, or whatever, while Haley go down. Anything can happen. And so, Naomi and Smitty start to realize that their stories were kind of like conflicting, or this is what I heard, or what this is what I heard, and it won't add up. But what they could come to a conclusion was that Haley was at the center of it, and Haley had been lying. So now I think both of them are going to probably keep their ears to the street to try to find out what exactly is going on with the other one, because none of it is making sense. And Haley may start to plant a seed in Bill's ear to tell him to keep his eyes on Haley. Or I think they're going to be the one to bust Haley and find out that she been putting stuff in Bill's drink and making him go to the hospital too. But about that, lastly about Andre, because this is the moment I've been waiting for, because I've been saying I like Andre, and I've been saying Andre was perfect, and I like his relationship with Danny. But I think Andre, aside from Danny having this secret that we just, you know, have witnessed with, you know, during the tornado with her and Bill in that elevator, I think Andre has been hiding something from Danny for a very long time. And I don't know if Andre was married. You know, Andre had been all over the world. Andre, you know, had people here and there. And then, you know, Andre was able to get this deal with this lady for this fashion house for Danny to model for. So I don't know if he's been having entanglements with her when he's been leaving, or if I don't know what's going on. But a mysterious bottle of wine or champagne came to Danny's house, and it had a card in it with a certain statement saying, "Congratulations on your prenuptials. I hope you last forever," or something like that. Andre started blinking hard. He started glitching. And then when Danny went upstairs to talk to Vanessa on the phone, he called the number, and the number said this number is no longer in service. And then next week, I saw from the description from one of the episodes that Andre is going to tell the secret. So I'm just like, Andre, what did you do? Do not piss me off. Do not piss me off. What did you do? What did you do? Because ain't nobody got time for no shenanigans, Andre. We don't have time. Because Danny has opened her heart up to you, and she already has dealt with a crooked man. So you mean to tell me you have a secret that has been, I mean, he was looking through the bushes. He didn't want to be photographed. He didn't want to be all that. All that was probably last season. And now it's just not coming to fruition, the secret you've been hiding. And we wanted to root for you, Andre. You are not to be trusted. You are not to be trusted. Because what is going on? What are you hiding? That is all for my review for Beyond the Gates, episode 131. I'll be back soon for episode 132. Also, if you're getting caught up, please check out my Beyond the Gates playlist. Let's tap in. Let's chat about it. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll be back with more. Deuces.